yesterday was just such a powerful day.
Mm.
I went ahead and decided to do the 10 grams of psilocybin and I hadn't done over 5. I just felt like it was like I had to release, and so it was just such a journey. Like really, it was a full journey the entire day. And so there's so many like key points to that day that I want to hold on to and remember forever.
Mm.
And it was funny because I was like in the middle of it, I'm like, I've got to go journal this. And Spirit just kept saying, trust the process. Like that was probably my main theme, is just trust. You won't forget. You'll know. Like I'll feel it. But it's so we can just start there. I don't even know really if I remember the first day with the Cambo. But yeah, yesterday, we'll start there. Sorry, my brain's still configuring. But so with yesterday, my intention was to show me all that I am. I've been struggling with a lot of unworthiness, unbelief in myself, not being enough at anything. And I thought I knew where that stemmed from in the beginning, just with childhood traumas and marriage traumas, and I struggled with alcohol and drugs as a kid, you know. And so my intention was I just want to see all that I am. I have lots of big plans. I want to do all these things, you know. So in the very, very beginning, it took me into like this underground of like wisdom, just to show me the depths of who I am. And so it was like, I'm not simple. I'm not, and not to say that I thought about it in the moment, but just, I was very, very visual yesterday. So I could just see, it was like just tunnels and Egyptians. And then I had the roots of the trees and all the vines that would just spread out. And I could just feel everybody like together. And then it kind of came in where like leaders were on top, like overwatching. I don't know if they were leaders or gods or what it was, but it just felt the presence around me. So it was just like a full gambit of wisdom guides, just everybody all surrounding me. And then I started feeling like Sean's energy. So I think I was just like moving energy around, like how I felt like he needed help. So I was there just kind of moving it. And then I could see it just kind of go into the tunnels and just kind of go off. And then it was like this dark shield, right? And behind it at first it was just like red, like not lava, but just rainbow lines just kind of just passing through. And it kept going, I kept going, how can we break this? How can we break this? And the message was just love it. Love it. And so that was just like the shield, the wrongs or whatever, just love it. And so whenever I would love it, you could see the rainbows, the color. It still had the shield, but the rainbows would come through, the pretty bright pinks and whites, all of it. It was so pretty to see the different, as my mind would struggle, the different colors in my mind would change. And I could feel the release of it go, because it was just like a river of just everything. And so I'd start with the struggle, and it was just always dark and deep, and then never scary. But as I felt the shift, it would change, and it would be more of the bright whites and the pinks and the like almost like unicorn kind of. Yeah. So there was a lot of movement in that sense, and
so it was very visual.
I was very visual yesterday, very visual.
Almost the way you describe it, it's like thought has an aura, you know, like there's a color.
Yes.
Emanating from the thought stream.
So that goes really well with the mirror work. That reminds me, I forgot all about the mirror work. I went to the bathroom to go pee after a while, and when I'm in the bathroom, I could see myself, like, because I usually stay very hunched, and I, you know, worry and miss thought, and I would just I seen myself change and get old. And then it was like if I'd stood up, and then my thoughts would change, like, oh, you know, but you're beautiful. I would go back to like I was 20. And so it was really like, it was almost like, make your decision. Do you want to be here? Or do you want to be here? And so by the end of it, I was like, I want to be here. I like the way that I look, you know, it was just nice. And so, so yeah, it was very visual. And I found with the colors, it was like the feeling, I guess. The colors changed with the feeling. So if like a very masculine presence would come, it would get very dark and like almost like a transformerish. And it was still kind of like in a tunnel, but it would be very like red. And then so that's when I think I felt Sean. I was like, okay, so I would help kind of guide that, and then it would just kind of lighten up. And then I was just like, okay, now go. You know, it was so it was just incredible. And I remember like Maggie at a certain point, I think this is before I went to the bathroom, like I lifted up my little thing and she's just sitting in the corner. And her face was like shape shifting in different, actually some people I recognized and some people I didn't. And so she comes up to me and like we had a little moment, and I asked her, I'm like, am I taking too long? And she says, you just take all the time you want. And I was like, okay. I just put my thing on, and then I just went back, but then it was like a whole nother, I had just like a whole nother journey of, I don't remember exactly where that took me, but I remember crying a lot, but like for other people. And then I remember crying out of gratitude. That was a big thing. Just the gratitude for the space that was being held for me, the gratitude of everybody that was here, the gratitude for myself, and I'm just crying these tears of just happiness. Oh, it was so good. So good.
That's the best.
It was so good.
And life is just so beautiful that you're moved to tears.
Yeah. And it just, and not, it just, usually like when you cry, you kind of tense, but it was just that release of just like, so beautiful. And then there was a point where I went outside after I went to the bathroom, and like I said, because I had big plans and I struggle with being worthy, I was sitting in the grass, or I had my hands in the grass, and I'm looking at the lining, but they have this beautiful view, and I could see where it looked like it was normal, but then all of a sudden it got like really like red and castle-like, and I had the feeling of like, this is yours. This can be yours. Do you trust me? And I'm like, I trust. And it was a battle within myself of, you don't trust. You've got to let go of the trust. Like you say that you trust, but you don't really trust. And I came to the realization of I wasn't trusting because I was just afraid that it was going to be taken away from me. And so when I was like, okay, I release, then again, it changed the colors. And as I was like, I don't really know what I looked like, but at one point I was like laying, probably had my forehead to the ground. And it was just this beautiful, beautiful, do you think of like the sprinkles on the unicorn where they're like pinks and blues and it has all those and whites? That's what it just looked like. And it was just like, I'm saying thank you, and the universe is saying, here, this is yours, you're welcome. And so that was probably the point of like me letting go of my control, the hold that I had. Because then when I went back inside, I don't know at what point, but I did have a lot of deep work that came up. And so like I'm sitting there and I'm figuring out, okay, I'm feeling like I'm trying to check a box, but I can't really check a box because my mind's not working. I'm like, I was completely shut down for a lot of it. But at one point it was like, okay, so you've worked on everybody else, you've had your fun, when are you going to work on you? I was like, oh, okay, and I was like, let's do this. And it's like, why are you here? It's like, okay, the self-sabotaging, that was one of my big things. Like, I get somewhere to a point and then I'm like, pull back, or I don't drink for a while, and then it's just this battle that I fought for so long. And so it almost like, it was brought to me and said, okay, let's deal with this now. But it was like a chamber that was just locked, And I remember just kind of like going, no, I can't face it yet. And so then it went away. And then more work kind of came through. Like, I remember thinking my imperfection, like, not my, I was always told that I never could be happy, I never could be satisfied and all this kind of stuff. And as a Virgo, I'm supposed to be a perfectionist. And I'm like, I'm not really a perfectionist, I'm just really hard on myself, but for everybody else, I don't care. Well, then when the speaker messed up, I was like, oh, there's my perfectionist. Like, there, I'm like, okay, I'm like paying attention to the detail. And so I'm just putting together all of these things that I thought were flaws for so long, but then I figured out I can use it to be creative. And so it just had this revelation of my mind needs to be creating, and it hasn't been. So it's went through you're not enough, like all the mental noise was at my mind at work, just in the wrong avenue.
Yes.
And so it was just beautiful to like put it together. And then I was just like, okay, so then I just sat there and creating this beautiful flow for a while. And then at a certain point, it was something came to me and says, no, can you love you? And I was like, yeah, I can love you. But then it made it speak inward, like, can I love me? Can I love? And it was just like over and over and over again. I could feel the tears coming in. I think that's about the time I had like this, I started crying, but it got like deep cry. I started thinking about the years that I drank too much and didn't pay attention to my kids the way that I should have. And they're older now. God, they're great kids, but that sorrow and that pain just all came up, and I just remember crying. And at the same time, I remember going, I'm being too loud, and it was like, it doesn't matter, this is your space. Like, having this dialogue in the middle of my head, but I just couldn't stop it. And so I just let it flow. And then finally, I guess Whitney or somebody came and did some work to kind of settle my body, and then it's like, oh. And I was okay. Like, for that section, like, that had kind of passed, and I don't remember what happened in between, but I had released, well, they say, like, well, even Danielle said my throat chakra was off a little bit because I never spoke up for myself. And so just by allowing myself to release all of that anger and pain in one cry, it was just like, oh, so much weight lifted off of me. It was so amazing. And I'm trying to think if time was such a crazy thing, but the last like really big thing from yesterday was, I've always had like hip issues, and I've always had this purge. So I started plant medicine back in March, and I've always felt like something stuck here that would never come up. And everything that I've been learning about myself, like, I should trust my intuition, this is how I make my decisions, this is what I should be doing, but I can never trust it. And it's always been very blocked in my gut. And so I guess Whitney had come, and I had asked her, I was like, do you do energy work? Because there's like, it wants to come up, but I remember what it is. I had my face in the bucket. That's why I came, like, because I felt like it needed to come up, but it wouldn't come up. And so finally I was just like, okay, I grabbed the bucket, but it was stuck, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, okay, I know how ridiculous this looks, but I just need to get this out. Like, it has to come out. And so I guess she came check on me, and she did some movements, and I told her, I was like, it just won't come up. Wherever her hand went, she could kind of like feel it, but she got to the point of my lower pelvis right here. And right when she hit it, I like instantly curled up and was tight, and I could feel like I'm grabbing the blankets because I realized there was trauma, like sexual trauma that was done to me. I just don't remember. And I've been holding it, and I actually had problems with this hip, but I've been holding it there. And so when it released, and I'm just crying, and I'm like, it was me. It really was me. And the beautiful thing about it, like, I felt the like again, I guess because I had all the blankets and I just was so tight and it felt like what it felt like in the moment. And then I was able to work through and go like, okay, but you're okay now. And it's good. And, you know, so after that, I opened my eyes and Melanie was sitting behind me and I just remember saying, that was the source of all my unworthiness. Like, it was shown to me, like, this is why I could never believe in myself. This is why I carried all these burdens, because I had been carrying this in my body that I never knew about. And so that was probably like the end all of like, after that I was like, like, yes, the full circle came back around and it was beautiful. And so now I can sit, like before I wouldn't have been able to sit like this.
Wow.
On Monday I could maybe for a little while, but then I'd be like having a stretch. But all of my hip pain and everything was gone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And even, well, I guess like my face, they say like my face changed just because it was just such like a relief to be able to find it and then accept it. There's no other way I would have ever worked through that. So I was really glad yesterday that I went in really hard and just worked it out. I don't know whatever, like, you know, once you kind of come to, you're just like, oh, I don't know what everybody else thinks. I don't know how much longer I was there versus everybody else, but it was definitely well needed. The whole gamut worked through.
Yeah. I'm so happy that you took what you needed for yourself. Wow. And one thing that you said that really struck me is how such a teaching, such like a master teacher for life, is how if we are not consciously, actively creating life, then we're just at the mercy of, you know, all the old patterning, the programming, the impulses, and and how you just saw that like on a visceral, experiential level in ceremony, how when you were like consciously co-creating the experience, and how you could just influence reality through your perception and direct the flow of it. That's so powerful.
I've always thought like, oh, you're just not creative. You're just not, and that's what I was always told. And like from an arts and crafts standpoint, I'm really not. But even with being in that space, especially with the creativity and at that section, it was like, I guess it was a realization of, so I don't fit this mold. So I'm not this kind of creative, but look over here, you know, and it's like, get this mind to shut off because you've got so much to do here. And so that it was just like, oh yeah, okay. So now I can direct it in a light where it's like, yes, I can be creative. I don't have to succumb. I'd say that I don't have the thoughts, but I don't have to sit in the thoughts of before. So,
and what you explained is like that the outcome of, I mean, that is a miracle. That in one ceremony you were able to trace down into your body to find the root core trauma from which stemmed this whole self-image, you know, all these stories of not good enough, not worthy, you know, to be able to access that and unlock that and release that so that you can just fully bloom into the fullness of all that you are. That is such a miracle. It's such a blessing.
Yes, I'm so excited to go and live this life now. And it's, you know, and even like when I walked into the room at dinner, it was like, everybody's like, wow. It was just such a noticeable change because it was like, no, but I can show up now. Like, I'm good, I'm okay. So it was, so that I mean, if I can, I know there are other things in the journey that will probably come to me and I'll write them down, but those were probably like the biggest factors. And it was just so funny how it played out because it was like a life, right? It's like, okay, you want to see who you are? Okay, well, you're deep and you're wise and you're meant for so much more. And then I'm connected to everybody, you know, so I went through and I'm helping others. And then it's like, okay, but let's help myself now. And then so I felt like all the intentions that I was sitting on over the last few weeks of like really wanting to get to it all came up in one form. And then with my kids came up at a certain point, which I thought was I'm really glad I understand energy work as much as that I do, and it's not much, but I could feel them. I could feel their burden, and so I would just blow love to them, like I'm just sending love. I'm pretty sure I was actually blown at the time, but it was just like I just wanted them to feel even just a fraction of what I was feeling, so that they can know that they are loved and they are seen and they are beautiful. And especially when my son came up, it was like he's had to put a lot of stuff on his shoulders. And so I was just like, you can let go. I was just trying to send him that message, and I'm just like, you are loved, you can let go. And so it was really, really beautiful for me to be able to share love with them in that space, because then I know now that I can go and I can actually share love with them in the way that they're going to need it. I think I'll be able to hold them now. Like I couldn't really hold them before, I'm excited about that.
Just that like full body goosebumps. We're celebrating you so hard.
Thank you. It's so my kids are 21, 18, and 16, and so they're at an age where it's like I'm glad I found this life, because then it won't have to. And they're going to take their journeys, they're going to do their own thing, but they can see the change in me. They can ask questions if they want, and then I can just love them and let them, So yeah, that was beautiful.
Yeah. Was there any other aspect or experience of this whole retreat that really was like an epiphany for you? Like, any other really remarkable moment that you feel inspired to share about?
That would be the beginning of Bufo. So my Bufo ceremony today was a little rough, and I couldn't drop, but at some point I did, and it was just you can't even, I don't know, can't explain it, can't put it into words. Oh, the feeling was just like, now I understand what it's like, you just want to lay back. But so with the Bufo, she had given me, I don't know how much she gave me, but I had to go 3 times.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to hit it 3 times.
Wow.
Yeah. Because the first time I came up and I'm like, I'm just thinking and thinking and thinking, and I'm just like, I just can't, stop it. And so she was like, okay, I'll make the medicine. So I like laid in her lap, who was just, oh my God. She's so, it was like, so I just laid in her lap and I just cried as she did that. And then, so I did it the second time, which was, I think, better. And I don't remember, I think that's whenever I threw up. I don't know that I threw up. There was a certain point where I think I was throwing up. And I don't know where I was, because everything was so awkward and weird. But after the 3rd time, I think that's whenever I must have fully released, because when I came to my senses, I remember just laying on my back, because I was so still very closed off. So I remember laying on my back and going, okay, and feeling that, trying to remember that first intense feeling that I felt. And when I opened my eyes, I was across the room from we started here, then I'm over here. So I don't know what happened at all, but I know at that time I was I looked at her and said, I got it. That feeling, the whatever happened, I understood what it was telling me. And then I woke up and I couldn't talk. My voice was released, so I don't really know what Melanie was saying, I was screaming like almost like she didn't sound like a jaguar.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't know. And that's okay. I'm like, just the whole experience of it was like, that's something I think I'll have to sit with and kind of figure out that process. So that one was pretty powerful. And then the first day, I think it was just getting over, I wasn't extremely nervous, but just getting comfortable in the surroundings. I think just everything here, the whole retreat in itself gives you such a safe space, gives you that warm inviting, gives you all the little aspects of, no, we're here for you, or you're here for you, or just take care of yourself. And so it was really neat how it all played out. And I like the morning walks and the yoga, and I did do the cold plunge. That was my first cold plunge.
Ooh, bravo.
Yeah. Well, Maggie got in with me the first day, and so we did it together, and then I did it by myself the second day. So it was like, it's just remembering, like, for that and outside of the medicine was, I am strong. Like, don't stop. Not want to say, but I don't have to discredit myself anymore. I can do it. I will do it. This is who I am, and so I can embody that more. And then we went into the psilocybin journey, so it just kind of all, I like just how it laddered up and played out just nicely.
Yeah.
So it was all perfect. And so to go back to the trust thing, so every year I have like a word, and this year I started with, it was supposed to be execution, because I was going to execute twofold. I needed to execute on tasks that I need to do for business and life, and then I was needing to execute all of the thinking, the wrongs, and in that journey, whenever it was like, do you trust, and I don't know how it came about, but it was like, I'm executing this word, your word is now trust. And so my word for this year is going to be trust, and just like let go, align, and because I kept telling myself, but how am I going to know? And they kept telling me, you can trust yourself now. Okay. Okay. It's like, you can trust yourself now. Like, you're in touch with your intuition. So that's how you're going to know. And so so I have a new word now.
Beautiful.
Yeah. That was my full experience. It's been amazing.
As you're so fresh and so wide open, is there any message from the medicine that, if you could give language to the medicine, what would the medicine be saying right now to you, to your past self, your future self, your present self, all dimensions of yourself, and the aspect of yourself that is the whole collective of humanity? Is there any message?
Oh, love, pure, just everything that I embody is love. So there's no wrong, there's no shortcomings. It's just absolute love and gratitude. That's, I think, what I'm walking away with. It's just knowing that I can, like, I know now, I don't have any question that my heart is good. It's like, before I'm like, oh yeah, I'm nice, and I know I'm loving, and I've gotten in my heart, but I know I'm good. Like, I can go out and I can love on people, I can show up in the world, and then I can pass that along and help and just give back. And so
and that's the deepest trust in self. It's like when you know that fundamentally you are love, and that's what you're bringing to the world, like, the confidence of that. I'm just so overjoyed that you got to experience the revelation of yourself as the love that you are, because that love is so miraculous and extraordinary and such a blessing to the earth, you know, that it's like, it's such a disgrace to be holding that back and like, oh, I'm unworthy and all these limiting beliefs when you are just a pure heart of like love. You have so much to give, and I'm so excited for you to live out this realization and to share it with the world and your family, your children, and just have that ripple out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's the beautiful thing. And that's one of the things I felt like with the crying. And I was sitting out after Bufo, and I had gotten like the download of, it wasn't just mine. It's like I healed my mom and my grandma at the same time. And so I was just like, okay. And that was the thing, is like my body could handle it. I was in a space where I can do it. And so I was able to release it. And so it's really like going back, and then to think of the effect it's going to have like on my daughters and then their kids and, you know, or my son's kids. It's true. It's this one act of just opening up, and now I'm like, I'm going to explode over everybody. They're like, Mom, just stop. Yeah.
So happy for you. Thank you so much for sharing.
Absolutely. And thank you for hosting. This has been just phenomenal. I'm so thankful. So towards the end, whenever we were waiting, I was trying to come out of it, and sitting in that room that we did it in, and I'm looking out, and I mean, it's already a gorgeous view, but it just became this like church temple thing. And I was just like, oh, I've got a special spot here. And it's a really beautiful like feel here. So I appreciate y'all holding this kind of environment for us. Thank you.